What do Snoop Dogg, Gwyneth Paltrow and the Hindu god Lord Shiva all have in common? Well, they're all enthusiasts for the medical benefits of a small green leafy plant. The cannabis plant, to be precise.
Crush it and smoke it, you'd have marijuana.
Loaded with narcotics.
Let's examine the facts and only the facts.
Now, cannabis doesn't have the best reputation, probably because of its association with illegal drug gangs and bleary-eyed teenage wasters lighting up behind the bike sheds. But what was once reserved for rebels and rastas is now being championed by wellness gurus, tech bros.
I mean, it's legal, right?
Totally legal.
Millions of people around the world use marijuana and other cannabis derivatives every day. Cannabis has been used in healthcare for thousands and thousands of years. The first mention of it was found in ancient China nearly 4,500 years ago by Emperor Shen Nung, hope I got that pronunciation right, who's supposedly also the guy who invented tea. Must have been a popular guy. From there, it spread across the globe, from the pharaohs of ancient Egypt getting higher than the pyramids to the philosophers of ancient Greece. And by the mid-1800s, everyone was using it, even Queen Victoria, who apparently used it to relieve period pains. But by the mid-1900s, this wonder weed had fallen out of favor, and that's mostly thanks to Henry Aslinger, one of America's most prolific prohibition officers. After the Mexican Revolution and the resulting influx of Hispanic refugees into America, Aslinger harnessed the xenophobic classist attitudes of the time to condemn cannabis as a dangerous, highly addictive drug that caused violence, mental health disorders, and murder. Oh, and jazz music, which was apparently its biggest sin of all. Anyway, moving on, despite cannabis's free-loving proponents of the 1960s and 70s, along with the many artists, writers and musicians who claim to take inspiration from its effects, it's taken nearly a century for medical marijuana to once again be legally considered an effective form of healthcare. But what's so special about this plant anyway? Cannabis leaves contain hundreds of different chemicals called cannabinoids that interact with the body's endocannabinoid system. It's basically a vast network of receptors and signaling molecules that regulate the body's internal environment. But because of the mind-altering powers of the plants and the psychoactive drug marijuana that is extracted from its leaves, cannabis is illegal in many countries. And as a result, studies into its health-promoting properties have been obviously pretty limited.
When it comes to cannabis and cannabinoids and CBD, unfortunately, again, due to these research restrictions for 100 years because it was a legal drug, so little actual official human clinical trials. A lot of it's rat studies and a lot of testimonials and anecdotes, unfortunately.
I'm with Dr. Jeff Chen. Who are you? And tell me about CBD.
I actually was the founder and executive director of UCLA's Cannabis Research Initiative.
So far, at least, the plant is slowly becoming legalized around the world, and even in countries like the UK, where puffing the magic dragon is still illegal, medical marijuana can now be prescribed by the National Health Service, the NHS, in very specific situations. Cannabis contains two key molecules, THC and CBD, which can have very different, sometimes opposing effects on the brain. THC, the molecule responsible for getting you baked as a bean. By attaching to endocannabinoid receptors in the brain, THC influences neurons involved in pleasure, memory, thought, coordination, and even time perception. And that's what causes those feelings of euphoria and heightened sensitivity to the world around you. Two widely used treatments called dronabinol and nabilone are made of a synthetic form of the molecule and are used to treat chemotherapy-induced nausea and vomiting and to reduce weight loss and increase appetite in AIDS patients. And smoking cannabis has been linked to an increased risk of feeling suicidal. I'm not saying that this happens to everyone, but it's something that's important to bear in mind. So what about that other molecule, CBD? What does that do? Well, first and foremost, CBD doesn't get you high. So it's legal in countries like the UK, where marijuana isn't. Like THC, CBD interacts with the endocannabinoid system, and tentative early research seems to point to it as a potential treatment from everything from pain relief to Parkinson's. And as always, the wellness industry has been quick to jump on the bandwagon, and as usual, the puff has overtaken the proof. Now, CBD has been shown on numerous occasions to relieve anxiety, improve sleep, provide pain relief, and reduce muscle stiffness. And the cosmetics industry has jumped on early studies that show it might work against acne. There's even some early data suggesting it could be used as part of the treatment for pancreatic cancer, which has one of the lowest survival rates of any cancer. You see, CBD products are usually marketed as food supplements, not medicines. They don't need to go through such stringent safety checks and protocols, so what's advertised on the bottle isn't necessarily what you're putting inside your body. It's actually pretty shocking. A study in 2019 showed that only 28% of the products they tested had even close to the amount of CBD that was advertised on the bottle. Most people can't distinguish between the effects of CBD and a placebo. So if you want to really feel the health effects, you're going to need to be getting through one of those bottles every couple of days, which is just not realistic. Having said all of that, CBD has very few side effects, which is rare for a medicine, especially for mental health.
Moderate doses of CBD are actually more effective than the low or the high dose that they tested in these studies. 10, 20 milligrams a day, and then start increasing. And just know that the dose ranging all into the hundreds and up is still relatively safe.
So while the jury is still out on whether CBD is the miracle cure we've all been waiting for, trying a couple of drops probably isn't going to do you any harm, except to your wallet.